Welcome to all of you that's joined Quantum's webinar today. So on the future is here, wearable technology that will read for you. So we're excited to be able to show some of our technology today, the OrCam MyEye, and as Peter just said, he will be talking about that in context of other equipment that we have as well. So my name's Rebecca Clark, and some of you may know me. I'm in the Thornley office, and Peter, who'll be doing most of the presenting today, is in our Brisbane office. So I'll just go through a few housekeeping notes for those of you who might not have joined one of our webinars before. As we're recording the webinar, we might mute your microphone during parts of it so we don't get background noise. But we will stop for questions at various points, and you can also, on the interface, there is an option for typing chat messages as well if you think of questions as we go along. And as I said, that the presentation will be recorded and we'll make it available afterwards, and I will send that round as a YouTube video. The other thing is, if Peter will be showing a webcam, and that can come up as a very small picture. There is an option, if you've got a mouse, to drag the middle. There's a couple of little lines you can drag across to make that that bigger image. So without further ado, I will pass over to Peter. So just a moment, I'll make you presenter, Peter.
That's fine, thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, as this is mostly going to be me just talking and showing equipment, so I don't need to show anything on my computer screen necessarily. So look, I'm just going to dive straight in by explaining what we mean by the OrCam and what we mean by wearable technology. If anybody has any questions, they can just type them into the chat area or flag Rebecca's attention, and she can deal with that. But I will be talking about how OrCam fits into the context of other reading technologies as well. But I will start with the OrCam and just to give you a little bit of a rundown as to where it's come from. So I'm just going to actually go to my rear camera and show you what it looks like. Okay, so the OrCam consists of, you can see with my hands here, a small camera on an arm, a little headphone and a little microphone. This is going to click to my spectacles in a moment, and this is connected via a cable to a small control box here. The control box contains a small computer and has essentially 3 buttons on it: trigger button, 2 volume buttons, and a suspend or on-off button. And that's pretty much all of the controls on the OrCam control box. The OrCam control box would normally be in your pocket, or maybe on your belt clip, or in your handbag. So it's designed to be a wearable device, and I'll explain what we mean by that in the context of alternative devices that we've had in the past. So what I'm going to do is, because it is essentially a scanning reading device that reads out loud print, I'm going to put it in the context of other scanning reading devices as well. And I'm actually going to turn the camera around now to the clear reader, which looks huge when you see it in the camera here. But in fact, it's about the size of a old-fashioned kitchen radio. And this can be battery powered, or it can be mains powered, and it can be moved from room to room, but you would not call it portable in a sense of taking it to the restaurant or the library or something like that. No, we call it transportable. You can move it around the home. Now, the purpose of the clear reader is to read printed paperwork back to people. And that, of course, is one of the functions of the OrCam too. So the has no screen. It doesn't actually show any enlargement of the original document. Just reads it out loud. So I'll do a very quick demonstration of that. So with scanner readers, generally, traditionally, what you've done is you've placed your reading material, which has to be print, it cannot be handwriting, just in front of the scanner. In this case, the reader. You press a button, it takes a picture, you hear the shutter sound there, and then in about 10 seconds or so, it'll start to read out loud the contents of that document.
Pause for obligation-free demonstration at home or at our site. Support centres NSW02 9479 3100 VIC03 9545 4100.
And I just pressed the pause button there to pause. And I can rewind a word or go forward a word and so on. So this is what we call a scanner reader, and as you can hear with that voice, it's synthetic voice, and that synthetic voice you're hearing is the Australian voice. It's called the Lee voice, very similar to the sort of voice you would hear in a car navigation system, that sort of thing. And very, very useful for people who have no vision at all, or very, very poor low vision. It'll give them some independence with their reading of their everyday paperwork. I just have to reiterate, not handwriting, and of course it does nothing with photographs or anything like that. It's just what I call a newsreader in a box. Just read me this and it will read it back for you. Some of this common to all of our reading technology is these voices are essentially very good for reading newsprint type material. Correspondence and just factual things. They're less good, and this is common to all of our reading technology, less good for the reading of poetry or recipes or novels, where you want some sort of human emphasis and humour and all the other things that an actor would deliver. You want some sort of human emphasis and humour and all the other things that an actor would deliver. Oh, I see. We've got somebody that can log on. Okay. I'll just pause for a moment just to let all that settle down. All right. So the Clear Reader is a very useful solution for people that just want a simple read me this solution. Just read this to me at home. We also have a version of the Clear Reader that fits into our Clear View. Our Clear View is an electronic magnifier. Currently, I've got it set to reading this newspaper visually, just magnifying it on the screen here. But we have, with this Clearview speech model, we've actually got the Clear Reader functionality also built into the Clearview. So I'll just show you how that works.
Speech on, position the text inside the window and tap the screen.
So now I can actually... So I can now just press the touch-sensitive screen on the Clearview speech, and it will now process that. And in addition to trying to read it out loud, it will show the original image on the screen.
In the King Country region of the North Island, Johnny had already been dubbed NZ's answer to Elvis before he arrived here in 1959.
And I can just tap the touch-sensitive screen to pause and so on. I can also magnify.
Zoom in.
Magnify what's on the screen.
Zoom in.
And I can also direct where to read from.
Played a vital role in moulding the music of a generation. Johnny Devlin, aka the Kiwi King, after Elvis Presley, was the first New Zealand rock in.
Now, The reason I'm showing you these things is because I want to put the OrCam into context with how it fits into the capabilities of the other scanners. So the first thing I'd say about the Clearview Speech is that it has what we call a bimodal view, which means it shows you the word as it's being pronounced. It actually shows you where that is in the context of the whole thing. And it's what we call directional, in that I can say, no, I read all that already, I want to read from here.
Elvis Presley impersonator, he said. I used to dress like him, right out.
And this concept of directionality is something that's also unique to the OrCam as well. If I just go back to the Clearview, the Clear Reader, this device, like most scanner readers, will read from the top to the bottom of the document, which means that sometimes for some materials it could be quite a lot of listening before you got to the bit that you're interested in. Whereas directional readers like the Clearview Speech and the OrCam, you can actually ask them to read specific areas. Okay, so I'll come back to that in 1 second. But I just want to also just touch on a couple of other devices that some people use for scanning and reading. This device here is called the Pearl, and it's a foldable camera, holds up to just to a portion of its size. And the Pearl camera can connect to a laptop computer, and it too can scan into the laptop computer and then read out loud with a program called Open Book. So this is getting also to a portable or a semi-transportable solution for people that already are carrying a laptop computer. It does have some advantages in that because it's connected to a computer, you can actually save information. You can actually search through that information for keywords and that sort of thing. And again, this is something that I want to put into context of what the OrCam can and cannot do. It will suit computer users, but it won't suit people who are averse to computers or have never used them or have no need for a computer. One of the advantages of the Clear Reader is that though there is a computer in there, it's actually very straightforward to control. So it only has a pause and play button, a fast forward, a rewind, and a volume control. So it very much comes down to what our customers need, whether they need simplicity or complexity, whether they need portability, whether they need a visual representation of what's on the screen, and so on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn to the OrCam in a little more detail. And I'm just going to actually assemble it onto my spectacles. And the way this works is we have a little metal mount that just put a little Allen key screw that just tightens it onto your spectacle frame. And this can be any spectacle frame as long as it's not too thin or too thick. So for my spectacles it fits very neatly just on the right hand side, and we can only fit the OrCam to the right hand side, and then just clips on like this. I'm going to turn the camera around to my side in a minute.
So while you're doing that, Peter, one person that we just had a question, can the OrCam be wireless? And it's not yet, but that is something, you know, it might happen in the future. They are constantly developing and making improvements, so we never know.
So here mounted on the side of my spectacles, the earpiece is just forward of my ear, and this can be adjusted. The earpiece can be moved further backwards if necessary, and the cable normally just tucks behind the ear, and then it can either go inside my shirt or at the front, and I can either just hold the control box or put it in my pocket, so on. But yeah, on that subject, Rebecca, it's currently cabled for a couple of reasons. One is that if it was wireless, then there would have to be a battery in the actual headpiece here, which would add weight and bulk. In fact, it might even start to pull the glasses down to one side because of the weight of the battery. And then, of course, you'd have to be talking about recharging the battery and all that sort of thing. And it's that by having a cable, we've got a very high bandwidth for all signals transmitted backward and forth from the camera here. The camera is taking 18 frames a second, and it's sending a lot of information to the control box, which is processing that in real time. So I'll explain a bit more about that as we go. But I'm just going to just dive in and demonstrate this functionality. So we've talked about the need to scan and read printed materials, and so far we've been talking about materials that are close up, like documents, paperwork and so on. So I'm just going to wake up the OrCam, and so that you can all hear, I'm going to actually just plug in a little speaker. And it is possible, of course, to plug in earbuds as well, or headphones and so on, because otherwise, speaking through here, this is actually a speaker. And even though you might have the volume low, people might still just hear what was coming through the speaker. But by plugging in earbuds or something similar, you'll cut that out, and other people won't hear what you're hearing. I'll just turn this on.
Volume max.
Can you hear that okay?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, all right. So the thing about the OrCam is that it's very directional. This camera is pointing along the line of my spectacles, and I like to say to people that they need to think about where their nose is pointing, not where their eyes are pointing. People with vision are so used to looking through the lower part of their spectacles when they want to read a piece of paper down here. We need to train people to think always of where their nose is pointing. So, for example, if I'm reading that same brochure that I had before, what I need to do is I need to actually raise it up a little bit, or send my head down, whichever is the most comfortable. And I need to make sure that my nose is pointing at the centre of the document. The other thing I need to bear in mind is the lighting that's available to me. The OrCam currently does not have any of its own lighting. It's possible down the track they will build a little LED into the camera as well, but at the moment it's relying on the ambient lighting in the room. That's quite an important factor because sometimes environments are not very well lit. So you might be in a restaurant, for example, and the lighting might be quite dim. And you might need to consider taking a small torch or something like that, or even using, and this is what I use all the time, I'm sure a lot of you do too, on your mobile phone, of course. There's usually a torch function on the mobile phone which you can use to illuminate those darker areas. Okay, so what do you do? This is what you do. You just take the document. I'm just going to try and not aim at the screen across the way. Can you see me okay? And I'd set my point finger and I just go point.
Call us for obligation-free demonstration at home or at our site support centres. NSW 02 9479 31.
And I've stopped it by using what we call the stop gesture, which is just like a policeman stop when you're stopping traffic. It's just a stop. And OrCam sees the shape of the back of my hand and says, oh, that's the command to stop reading. Just as that is the command to point to something. This is where OrCam is unique because it has directional reading. So, as compared to the clear reader, which reads everything from top to bottom, with the OrCam, you can say, I just want to read that block at the top there, or I want to read the block down the bottom there. So, for example, let's say we take a bill. If I was to put this bill under the clear reader, it would read it from top to bottom, including all the ABNs and barcodes and all the graphic information and the adverts and the prepay and everything would be read out loud. And eventually it gets to the bit you really want, which is how much do I owe them. And with the OrCam, I can actually say, I don't want to read the whole lot. I can see approximately where the where the bill amount is, and so I just get my pointy finger.
$59.15 to avoid a late payment fee. Up to $15. Please pay new charges amount.
So that's obviously, it assumes that you've got sufficient vision to see the block. So we say to our prospective customers that it's going to work to its full functionality if you have sufficient vision to see blocks of text, paragraphs and outlines and so on. But we still do have people who are totally blind who still see some value in the OrCam, because though they can't point directly to a specific thing, they could perhaps, they know they've got the document in front of them, they can feel that in their hands, and they can just point to the general area.
12.p, package 1, so eTrader, total balance.
And it will just start reading for that general area that it can see there, which may or may not be useful, but at least it will probably tell you that it's Telstra or Energex or something like that. Or if it was something like a book, once again, even without a lot of vision, people could feel the approximate area of the book. They could aim their nose at the towards the centre, and then they could just point.
Text seems blurry. Please hold it steady.
So it told me that the text was blurry and I have to hold it steady. And OrCam will do this if it seems to be more or too dark. It will say, look, it seems to be too dark or too blurry. So I'll just try it.
Maxwell found out. I take it. He could prize information out of a deaf mute. Yes. Oh. The fellow wasn't at all backward. He talked about it very frankly, too frankly, in Maxwell's judgment. But you know...
I'll just pause it. Okay, so I think you'll agree that that's very, very fast. The way it gets to actually speaking on the point of text picture, it's very, very rapid. So that's one great advantage of the OrCam, is it's very, very fast. It's one of the most accurate what we call optical character recognition systems that we've ever seen. The speed is amazing, and of course the portability is the main thing. Whereas all of our other systems are really not for taking out of the house. This one is definitely something you can take out with you. I just have a question popping up, sorry. I think the question is about how much can it see. I like to say that the OrCam is looking through, imagine this was a window held up to about where it is in front of my face now. That's the kind of rectangle that OrCam can see through. What that means is that if I hold up an A4 document, that's taking up most of the view of the OrCam, and so that's what it's going to concentrate on. Having said that, if I was holding this up and there was a poster behind, it would actually see that as well. But in this case, in fact, on my desk here, I'm actually looking at the Clearview speech behind me. It would actually read also some of the text on Clearview speech as well. So the amount it can see is a window just in front of your face, but you have to remember that it's actually going out in perspective. And what that means is that we're not talking about just like a 30 centimetre area going out forever like a tunnel. It's actually going out into space like this. And why is that relevant? Because if something is close, that dominates that area. But if I'm looking 30 or 40 feet down a corridor, it will actually see the whole of the back wall. Or if I'm in a lecture theatre, in a very large lecture screen, it will see the whole of the lecture screen. Of course, it's much larger than 30 centimetres, but because of perspective, it will actually see that wider area. That's exactly how it is being used by some people. So, one of our universities here, they're using the OrCam in lectures. and they can actually read the overhead presentation board in the second row, and it can be read the person's here. Even if that is. As far as OrCam is concerned, it doesn't really care about the size of the print or the distance to the print. It just cares about how big the print is in its eye.
Sorry, Peter, can you speak up a bit? Your audio is cutting out a little bit.
Okay. I was just saying that the OrCam doesn't really care about the size of the print that it's looking at. So we could be looking at something very distant that's printed very, very large, like a sign, like a shop sign or something like that. As far as OrCam is concerned, even though it's distant, the font appears quite large in its field of view. Similarly, if I have something that's very, very small print, all I need to do is bring it a little closer, and again, the font will appear larger in its field of view. So that makes it possible to read overhead presentations. It's possible to read small print on business cards, and it's possible to read regular print from magazines, books, and so on. I also saw a question earlier about can it read a computer screen? Yes, absolutely, it can read a computer screen. The fonts on computer screens are now so good that it really can read it really very, very successfully. It can also read the print on smartphones. So, and again, with directional pointing, you can point to the area of the smartphone that you want read, the email or the text message, and it will read that out for you as well. On that subject, while I remember, some people who are smartphone users should also consider apps that run on smartphones. If they're already a smartphone user, then they should be considering apps like the KNFB reader. That's KNFB, which is available on the internet for about $160. And that works by you program your smartphone, you hold it above the document, you hold it steady, press the take a photograph, and then in about 15 or 20 seconds, it will start to read back with the synthesizer built into your smartphone. So for people that are already tech savvy, already carrying smartphones and iPhones, that might be a solution for a portable scanner reader. Having said that, I have some customers who are already KNFB readers that still see the value, of course, in the OrCam, partly because of the speed, and partly because it's a wearable. This seems to be the really attractive thing to do. It's something that more than you actually like a pair of specs. Not any vision function at all, but just because it will direct your down with your head in a very natural way. I saw a question just earlier about can it store anything. The OrCam can't store any of its text at all. Everything that it does is contained within the box. It doesn't go connect to the internet or anything like that, and you cannot store things that can scan. And that's a very deliberate policy on the part of OrCam. They want it because it's so fast that as long as you have access to the original document, it's really no trouble just to point to it and get it to read again. They've gone down the route of storing with this, then they'd have to have a whole system of filing, menus, possibly typing in order to do that. And that adds layers of complexity that move away from the simplicity of use. And that we also see in some of our other devices too. So with the clear reader, which I showed you earlier, it works best for people who don't want to store, they just want to quickly listen to a document and then forget about it. If they do wish to store, they need to connect a little keypad and go through a filing system, filing procedure, which frankly is beyond a lot of our customers who really they want a very simple, non-technical solution. If people do want to store and they want to do all the advanced things like that, they might be better looking at something like the Pearl camera connected to their computer, and then they have all of those more sophisticated functions available. Once again, it's all about the customer, it's all about their needs. Sometimes they may have multiple needs, and possibly they might need multiple devices.
Mm.
Are there any other questions so far?
Okay, I'll just unmute everybody, so do feel free to speak up if you've got a question. Someone said, I thought from some marketing I read that the OrCam can recognise faces. Is that right? Yes, it is.
There are two versions of the OrCam. There's the OrCam My Eye and the OrCam My Reader. And the OrCam My Reader, it can do what I've been demonstrating. It can recognise printed material and read it out loud for you. The OrCam My Eye can recognise faces as well. It is very important that you understand what we mean by recognising faces. So, though I don't have anybody here to be a guinea pig, the procedure is you, so let's say you have some acquaintances or work colleagues or people, your neighbours and so on, that you just struggle to recognise them. They, most people who have a vision impairment will use all sorts of techniques for recognising people, how people sound, of course, their voices, the way they walk, the clothes they wear, their posture and so on. But very often people will look very similar and they can't. It'd be great if they could tell them apart. So what the OrCam can do is scenarios would say, look, well, I'm Peter, but I have trouble recognising you. Would you mind if I just program my fancy spectacles to announce your name to me, so next time I see you, I'll know who you are. And then at that point, people will either run away thinking you're barking mad, or they say, okay, that's fine. So the process is stand about 3 feet away from the person you wish to photograph, and you press and hold the trigger button on the side of the OrCam. It makes a double shutter sound, takes the photograph, and then it will ask you to name the person. So what you do is, because there's a microphone built into the side here, you then just quite normally say Rebecca Clark, for example, and your voice is then recorded as a voice tag against the photograph it's taken. I use the word photograph a bit loosely. What actually it's doing is not storing the photograph in a printable way. It's actually doing some biometrics on it. It's measurements of the eyes, the nose, the face, and on. It's storing that as, if you like, a digital fingerprint of the person. And it can store 100 photographs. So either 100 faces or maybe 3 photographs of the same person from different aspects, with sunglasses on, with a hat on, or whatever. So then what happens is the next time you see them, and you don't have to ask them anything, they could be standing 10 feet away, you can then just discreetly look at them and press the trigger button, and then it will, if it recognises them, it will just say in your ear, Rebecca Clark, or Peter Cracknell, or whatever, with your voice.
Thanks,
Okay. The face recognition is essentially a way of labelling a photograph of the person. Technically, that could be a good quality photograph of the same size as the human face, but I haven't yet tried it with a bank of photographs to see whether you could pre-program it. And in any case, it would be nice if you could ask permission before you did that. So that could be very useful just in a social sense. Many people are very inhibited about going out because they always feel that people don't, they're not recognising people in the street, and people may think that they're being a bit snooty or something like that. But it's just that they can't see the faces clearly. So with the OrCam, this can be just another tool for helping people to feel more comfortable going out and mixing with other people and so on. In fact, this is one of the arguments that people have applied for. If there are funding streams for the OrCam, and it can be state-based sometimes, facial recognition can be one of the arguments advocating for the OrCam as opposed to other reading technologies.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course, yeah.
How does the reader model cope with books with text and graphics? Does it break it down to pixels? Will it read? Sorry.
Do you mean with graphics on pages text? So is that graphics on the same page as the text? Yeah. Yeah. So what it will do is it will read anything that looks like a font. So if you remember, it can't read handwriting and it can't read artwork. So if you have a fancy logo like the Telstra logo, it won't say P. It will just treat it as if it was a picture and it will ignore it.
Oh, good.
That applies to things like some shop fronts, which have got very fancy artwork for nails and beauty or something like that. If it's basically artwork, it won't be able to read it out loud. Now that actually applies also to one other area, which is for products. You may have seen that OrCam says that it can do product recognition as well. I have to be clear here. It can only recognise products that are flat products, like a box of cereal. It can't recognise or read out loud highly curved surfaces. It will read some of the print on a curved surface. But when it comes to the feature that they call product recognition, it can't read irregular objects or highly variable objects. So let's say you're trying to identify fruit. It won't say that's an orange or that's an apple or that's a banana. You couldn't even program it to do that because everything is so variable that OrCam can't recognise it as this or that particular orange or apple. So in that regard, it can't describe the world to you, if you like. It can't identify objects in that way. Possibly in the future, it may be coupled to other applications that might do that. So, for example, there is an application out there on the internet called Tap-Tap-See, which can describe things for you. Normally that uses a smartphone, and you point the smartphone at the object, and then it will come back and tell you what it is. There is also an application called Be My Eyes, which is actually a bunch of people on the internet waiting to receive a call from a smartphone, and you point the smartphone at what you're trying to see, and then a volunteer will look through your camera and tell you what you're looking at. Now, it may be down the track that OrCam or other technologies might use their own cameras to connect to those kind of services. But at the moment, it's just doing the features I've described. And just doing that's text recognition, but not artwork, not handwriting. Face recognition, but only the faces you've programmed. And product recognition, which is for flat packets of food or whatever, which are always the same, which you can have a voice tag added to as if it was a face, so that when you pull the Arnott's biscuits out, you can tag it so it will tell you that it's Arnott's biscuits, or Wheat Bix, or Cheerios, or whatever.
We had a question, is that when you were talking about the facial recognition, is that how you program it to recognise credit cards, bank cards and money? Now, you could do your cards. I did have somebody do a slightly irregular object the other day, so that's a bit of trial and error, the product recognition, so as to what it will do. So the idea is, sorry Peter, I'll let you say, but that you do it in a similar way to the face recognition. You point at whatever you're trying to record, and it will prompt you to name it, and you can record a number of sides of an object. So, but it's got to have reasonable contrast and possibly some text or something on it, so it will pick things up.
That's fine. So, what we find when we show the OrCam to people, of course, everybody's different. They all have different needs. Some people just want it for, for use at home. Perhaps they're retired and they want to be able to read anywhere in the house, or maybe take it to the restaurant and so on. Some people want to use it for work. They want to use it to recognise their colleagues. They want to use it for documentation. But also maybe they go to meetings where people are doing overhead presentations. They want to be able to participate in those. And then, of course, we have younger people, school children and so on, that could use it. We also have people that use it who actually don't have any problems with their eyes physically at all. It's just that they can't read, maybe through dyslexia, or perhaps they've never been able to read. One of my customers, he was never really a reader, very successful in his industry, but he never learned to read. And he, now in his retirement, wants to be able to read the paper and so on. So he got it for that reason. So a multitude of walks of life and usages that we see. We do find that people respond really well to the responsiveness. It's so quick. It's very easy to control with just a very small number of buttons. And it can be controlled either by pressing buttons or, as I've demonstrated, using your hand to point or to so on.
Peter?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be able to read subtitles in the cinema?
Subtitles in a cinema. If they stayed still long enough and they were sufficiently large, yes. We know that when we've tried it with, say, the electronic program guides on TVs, or on subtitles or on cricket scores and so on, as long as they stay long enough for you to photograph, yes, it will read it as if it was print. So obviously if it's scrolling text, like you often get those news feeds where it scrolls across the bottom, it can't read that because it's moving. We have a question about, say, indicator boards at airports. Yes, it can read those. But what about a bus? If the bus is moving, the number, it couldn't read those. But if the bus was still, it should be able to read the number of the bus or the destination that's on the indicator.
We've had another question to say, does Quantum have the device available for people to trial, but we can do demos? Sorry, Peter, I'll let you answer that one.
It's the OrCam, as you may know, that we generally trial devices with people in their workplaces or their homes. The OrCam's a little bit different in that it does require some training before you can properly trial it. So we will do a demonstration, and we'll do that either at our showrooms, workplaces and so on. We'll generally have a conversation on the telephone first, and in a sense we go through a process where we try to identify whether it could be worth pursuing for the person. The reason is that there's so much information about OrCam out there on the internet and on Sunrise and all the various programs, which is wonderful. But we do often have people calling us up thinking that it's a different thing from what it's capable of doing. So we've had a number of inquiries where people think that it's going to somehow improve their vision, but because they associate it with spectacles, they think it's got something to do with vision. But in fact, of course, it's not. It's just been carried on the spectacle. We do have people who are very desperately looking for a solution, and they don't quite understand, its strengths and weaknesses. So yes, we have that conversation, and we have a demonstration, and that may then lead to a full-on trial, but that would involve some training beforehand. We do actually charge for training. That could take somewhere between 1, 2, or even possibly 3 hours for people, depending on their capabilities and so on, and their needs. So we will often have to make sure that people are fully trained before they can properly trial it. But yes, we do trials. They are refundable trials. So if somebody has purchased something and clearly within 30 days it's not working for them, we will fully refund that. But not the training component, unfortunately. We have to make that. Rebecca, was there anything else you wanted to add to that at
No, so I think that's, and yes, it is. We have normally got stock, so it's been pretty popular. So we've occasionally had gaps, but we've also had a question about the cost and the warranty. So I had actually, I might just, if got some points here. Yeah, so the actual device for the MyEye, which has got all the options, the face recognition and the product recognition, as well as the print reading. The actual unit is 5,950, and then the training is 300, so it works out at just over 6,000. There is the My Reader, which is just the print option without the face recognition, and that's about 5,500, including the training. And there's I think there's a 2-year warranty on the MyEye. And 1 year on the My Reader. So, and in the warranty, at least with the MyEye, they provide any software updates, and with both it's the software updates, and the My Reader, it's hardware as well. So if they came out with a better camera or a different base unit, they've said within the warranty they will include that. So we've got a list with them at the moment about things to add into it. So we'll see how we go. But they are looking at adding Australian currency in there as an automatic thing. That's in process. And also table mode is another thing we're trying to get done fairly quickly. So, because at the moment it distinguishes columns, but if you want to read across, you've really got to be able to see to do that. So, yeah. Had you got anything else you wanted to say, Peter?
Just about
any other questions? Yeah, sorry, Peter.
Talking about how people can access it, we are actually in the process of also training trainers. So obviously, Rebecca, my colleagues at Quantum, we've all been fully trained as trainers by OrCam. They came over and they gave us a full day's training. But we are also in the process of training trainers, and they're usually occupational therapists. So then they can become accredited, and this will mean that we can broaden our reach throughout Australia so that more people can actually see the device. Obviously, we can't just post the device to people and expect people to get any benefit out of it without being properly demonstrated and trained. So,
Yep.
Just on the point of funding and so on, of course, we've certainly had a. I was just saying that the device has been certainly well received by the Workplace Modification Scheme, Job Access. So we've had a number of approvals for use in the workplace, and that's fully funded, federal funding. We also have, of course, the National Disability Insurance Scheme, which of course is rolling out throughout the country, and it's a perfect device for that. And there are some, depending on your state, there are often some state-based funding streams as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and we have had at least one person get it through Veterans Affairs as well as a gold card holder. So, yeah, couldn't manage any of the other devices. So obviously it's got to be justified, but yeah. It's okay. Well, I might just take back the presentership if that's all, Peter. And yeah, lovely. Okay. Let me just see. Oh, hang on, the right one. Okay. So just to reiterate, with the OrCam, there's two main ways of reading, either pointing with your finger upright or pressing the trigger button. There is also a function, if people don't have that much dexterity, to tap the base. It can read aloud print, and the MyEye, you can record faces and some products for it to recognise in the future. There's a couple of different versions, the MyEye, which has all the functionality, and the My Reader, which is just reading print. We do sell it with the individualised training, and with that we do come and do that in your workplace or home or wherever you want. And there's a 2-year warranty for the MyEye and 1 year for the MyReader, including the software and hardware for the MyEye. But yeah, so are there any other questions, or I'll just unmute everybody again. No, any questions? No. Okay, if not, thank you to everybody for attending, and if you do think of any other questions or have any, somebody asked, can you read it when you're lying down? Yeah, as long as you were pointing towards the option, you'd have to have whatever you're reading in front of your nose. Then that I've not tried that, but it should work. So yeah, you've just got to be conscious of where your nose is pointing in relation to what you're trying to read. Yeah. If you do have any other further questions or feedback, or if you yourself or have got anyone else that's interested in an individual demonstration, then please contact us 1300 883 853 or info@quantumrlv.com.au.